So without further ado, I'll introduce Kimberly Hall, who works for the Google for Education team here in Melbourne, and Chris Betcher, who is with the Google for Education team in Sydney. So welcome to you both, and I'll hand over to you now. Thanks.
Thanks, Nathan, and thanks to DLTV for welcoming us back. Yeah, as Nathan said, it's been really exciting to be part of this really unusual time in education that we've had this year, particularly being a Victorian. You know, Chris and I feel very privileged to have been in a position where we are, you know, working with a company who've managed to produce tools that have been really helpful for so many people, and also have the privilege to support lots and lots of schools. And so we're very grateful for DLTV to invite us back to allow us to do that again this afternoon. Chris, do you want to just jump to the next slide, please?
Yeah, can I just confirm, are we recording right now?
Yeah, yep, it says recording in the top corner.
Great, excellent.
Yeah, excellent. So just very quick intros from Chris and I. So my name is Kimberly Hall. I am in the Google for Education team based out of our Melbourne office, which for, you know, probably the next 5 years is probably my house at this point, based on how we're going here. Goodness, please. I was a Department of Education teacher in Victoria for about a decade, and then worked in the Catholic Education Office in Victoria as well. So I've been really, really fortunate to have had the opportunity to work across multiple systems with lots of schools over the last few years, and really, as I said, really feel really privileged to be working in the Google for Education team to support lots of other schools. And Chris, do you want to do a quick intro to you?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, my name is Chris Betcher. I am also on the Google for Education team based in Sydney. Prior to this, Kimberly and I actually worked together in a previous venture before we both ended up at Google, funnily enough. But prior to that, I was an art teacher originally and just drifted from there into digital technologies and multimedia and technology and graphic design and all sorts of things like that. And spent probably 30 years in the classroom working with kids for the most part.
Which shows your age, by the way, but that's okay.
I'm good with that.
And we do have our contact details on the screen, and we will put them back up again at the end of this afternoon's webinar. And very genuine offer, please reach out to either of us if we can assist in any way. We are very, very open to always answering and supporting schools in whatever way you need support. So feel free to jump online and contact Chris or I at any point. This afternoon's session is going to be a pretty full-on, fast-paced session, and we're really, when we talked to DLTV about what we were going to do this afternoon, they talked about doing some stuff beyond the basics. And as Chris mentioned, we did work together for the last 5 years. We were actually running a professional development company where we did a lot of Google training. And so if someone says to us, like, can you share a whole lot of stuff? Like, Chris and I instantly like, here's the 4 billion things that we want to tell people. So we have tried to narrow it down, but we will share a lot this afternoon, because we're really focusing on, as you can see, this is Google's mission statement: to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And we are going to share a whole lot of resources that do that really well, and lots of things that are probably a bit lesser known. So we assume that most people on this call have become pretty familiar with a lot of the core tools, your docs and your forms, and even Google Meet, etc. So we're going to try and expose you to a whole lot of things beyond those tools this afternoon. And because it is going to be fast-paced, Chris, if you could just put up the link on the next slide, please. We have made a forced copy link for the presentation we're going to be working on. So if you go to bit.ly, and maybe I'll just drop it in the chat as well, /DLTV 14 October, which it did take me a while, I'll admit, to work out what the date was, because I am in Melbourne. So it is, you know, Blur's Day, the something teen of a September is pretty much what I think the date is. So here we go. If you go to this, it will force you to make a copy of the presentation. And you'll see that we've got a whole lot of lots of links. We won't, even if we talked at 1,000,000 miles an hour, we probably still wouldn't get through everything in the hour. So we're going to do a bit of an interactive session, actually. So we will actually be asking people to either unmute or drop stuff in the chat. But everything that we're covering plus more is in that presentation. And what we'd encourage you to do as we go through is actually take your own notes on anything that's really relevant to you, because obviously when you are doing a session with a broad group of people who all have very different backgrounds and experience and things like that, each of you are going to be taking away different things from this. So rather than us write out all the things that we think are really important, we'd encourage you to pick the things, add some slides to this deck, and then you can actually add your own notes and ideas in there as well.
Wow.
Just before we jump into all the tools as well, I will just flag that we are going to be looking at a whole lot of additional tools. So Google does have in the G Suite for Education agreement that we have with schools and with departments of education and Catholic dioceses, etc. That we have tools that are in what we call our core suite. So they're our docs and our forms and Drive and all the things you're used to. But as you guys are very aware, Google also produces a whole lot of other resources that are not necessarily specifically for education, but we're going to share some of the ones that are amazing for education, as well as some third-party tools. One of the things that I personally like best about Google is that they have a philosophy of open will win. It's actually written into some of their innovation principles. So they leave the code open to the back end of all their tools and enable people to build really cool stuff that do things beyond the basics of what Google tools can do. And whenever we are talking about third-party tools or additional tools, I will flag, particularly if you're in a Victorian Department of Education school, that it is really important that you consider a privacy impact assessment on anything that requires students to log in or requires personal or sensitive information. None of the things we're actually covering this afternoon really hit that mark exactly. We made sure we moved away from anything that could be controversial, but we will also share with you the email address of the digital learning team at the department. And if you are unsure in any way ever about if you could be using any digital tools in your classroom, the digital learning team in the department are fabulous, and just send them an email and they'll happily help you along with either the journey of doing privacy impact assessments or just answering questions around that as well. Okay, Chris, do you want to just intro the way we're going to handle this afternoon?
Sure, that'd be good. So we thought we'd do like an A to Z of all things Google, and as we mentioned on that previous slide, that one there, the mission of Google is to organize the world's information, make it universally accessible and useful, and that's a pretty big mission, and it covers a lot of ground. So what we did was we picked 20. How many letters in the alphabet? 26. 26. we picked 26 different things. Each one starting with a different letter of the alphabet. And we've given you a couple of bonus ones as well. If you look through that slide deck, you'll see there's some other bonus ones. But what we're going to do is get you guys to pick a letter, and we'll do that. Now, it's a little bit tricky here because we're running off one computer, which happens to be in Sydney, and Kimberly's in Melbourne, and we're going to try and take turns. So I'll be driving when she's talking, and I'll also be driving when I'm talking. So let's see how that works. Kimberly, do you want to start by picking a letter?
Oh, you want me to pick a letter?
Yeah, why not? You can start off.
Oh, but I know what's behind. It's like playing Jeopardy, and you know what all the questions are behind the game board. No, let's go with.
Right. I'll pick a letter for you.
Meg's put one in there for us.
Meg's picked M. All right.
We're going to go with M to start with.
All right. What's under M? M is Move It. This is one of your ones.
This is one of my favorites. So this is a Chrome extension, and if you're not familiar with the Chrome Web Store, basically it's the app store for the Chrome browser and Chromebooks. And this Move It Chrome extension was actually developed by a Victorian teacher, a Victorian PE teacher, Jared Robinson. You know Jared. And what this does is it's really designed around that concept that we spend a lot of time sitting, and particularly as teachers during remote learning, you probably spend more time than you have ever sitting, and in a classroom, when we go back to this physical classroom, which primary schools are doing this week and secondaries will hopefully be doing really soon, you can sort of lose track of how long we've been sitting for. And so what happens with Move It is once you add it to Chrome, like Chris is doing right now, and Chris, you might have to share your actual window so we can see your
yeah, I've just realised that.
So while Chris does that, I'll just talk it through. So once you add it to Chrome, the way a Chrome extension works is you click Add to Chrome. You, of course, read the terms and conditions if anything is presented to you and agree to them. And then what it'll do is it'll sit up just next to your Omnibox, which is your search bar in your Chrome browser. And it'll be a little icon, a little red icon. When you select it, which Chris will show you right now, you can pick an interval of time. and whatever interval of time you choose, it will actually take over your entire Chrome browser after that period of time with a simple movement that you have to do. So it might be something like do 5-star jumps, you know, twist your wrists, to think about what those things are called, you know, move your ankles, stomp on your feet on the ground, something like that. And you have to actually click complete or done, I can't remember what the wording is, before it will let you move on. And when I say it takes over your entire Chrome browser, if you're someone like me that operates on like too many tabs open all the time, it will actually take over every single tab that you have in that window. So you can't do anything without doing the movement. And I always like to tell students, and not necessarily condoning lying, but I like to tell students that it's watching you through the web browser, like through your webcam, and so it knows whether you've done the movement or not, and you actually can't move on until everybody in the class has been a little bit active. But it's a really great one to just break up the, you know, sedentary nature that we sometimes find ourselves in.
Awesome. Yep. I don't use it much, but it's a good tool. All right, Kimberly, you want to pick someone else to pick a letter?
Sure. Lisa, you have your camera on, so you get, not targeted, you get the opportunity to have the next letter. Oh, you're muted. Either drop it in the chat or unmute quickly, Lisa.
Let's go for Z.
Oh, you're going Z.
All the way to the end.
All right. Yeah, I will say we put a lot of really useful tools in here. We put some silly ones in as well, right? So Z, because we couldn't think of much that started with Z. There's a little tool that someone made at Google just as a joke. It's called Zero Gravity, and it's just an address. You can see there, mrdoob.com/projects, blah, blah, blah. And the thing is, you load it up on a screen like that, and as soon as you move the mouse, it all falls apart. And it all just smashes apart like that. There's like zero gravity. It just falls. Really good for practical jokes, and you just, if someone near you forgets to log out of their computer, you can go on and load up Mr. Doob's extension here, and then next time they come back to their computer, they go, what's happening? I don't know what my computer just did. So hours of fun for the whole family. All right, that is Z.
All right, next, did someone want to just volunteer a letter?
Yeah. Oh. All right. Oh.
I remember what O is as well. It's our other Chrome extension.
Oh, your other Chrome extension.
Yeah.
Yeah, you love this one. I love this one too.
I do. This is a super useful Chrome extension for productivity. So basically what it is, once again, very much designed for people who love having lots and lots of tabs open. And it's a little funnel that sits up next to your Omnibox. And when you do get to the point where you have a lot of tabs open, or if you know when you're researching at the start of a unit or something and you're researching a whole lot of different websites and links and things that you want to share with a class or with colleagues, rather than having to go along and actually, you know, copy, paste all of those different individual addresses, you can actually click the one tab extension, and what it will do is it will condense everything that you have. Get 22 open. There you go. That's perfect choice then. So it will condense all of your tabs down into one tab, which is why it's called one tab. And the one tab that's left open is a hyperlinked list of every other tab that was open. So it means,
do I dare demonstrate this during this thing?
It sometimes crashes Meet. If you have Meet in the same window, it might crash the Meet call.
Yeah.
And so
I don't want to risk it. But
I was going to say, since you're driving, maybe don't. So if anybody else is installing this right now, just be conscious if it's in the same window as Meet, you could log yourself off the call. You can rejoin, obviously. But the really cool thing is that once you've got that one tab list, you can rename the list, so you can title it whatever it is. So it could be, you know, World War II history research, whatever. You can share that list with whomever you choose, but it also will add to your lists over time. Yeah, it's a pretty cool extension. I use it a lot, and I think Lisa said you use it at conferences a lot.
Yeah, I will say, when you look at one tab here somewhere, if I right click on that and go to the options, there is a bunch of options for one tab, and it is worth actually going through the options and fine tuning it to make sure it works the way you want, because I have found that the defaults that it defaults to certainly wasn't the way I wanted it to work, so I fiddled with it, and it's worth taking a look at it.
Chris Betcher is also one of those people that doesn't like the default of anything. So, as a general, you should go into the settings of every tool and check the defaults.
Yeah.
Okay, someone want to throw another letter into the chat? Oh, S.
S is Google Scholar. I was going to talk about this one. So Google Scholar is a search engine that Google has. It's just like a normal search engine, except it searches only scholarly articles. So if you're doing any university study, or you've got students who are doing particularly sort of academic work, it's great. So you can go in here, and I did some previous searches here. I'm going to search for learning styles. And when you're searching in this search engine, which is scholar.google.com, it's now returning sort of scholarly articles. And the thing I love about this is, for example, this top article here, you see if I click on this learning styles and pedagogy, which was because I was searching on learning styles, it will actually take me to wherever that is hosted. So this is coming from a site called thinkportal.org, and there's the abstract there of the article, and you can learn a little bit more about it there. There's some other items there. Now, if you want to see the full thing, I'm just going to go back because I want to point out something here. You notice that this article at the top doesn't have anything over in this space on the right, whereas this second one does. So because of copyright and because of the way different journal articles are licensed, sometimes they'll give you access to the whole article. So like if I click on this PDF link here, it will usually take me to the entire article. And so there's the whole thing. So, you know, if you're looking for journal content, if you're doing any sort of higher studies, sorry, make sure I go back and don't close the tab. Sometimes they'll give you the whole article, sometimes they won't. It's just a little bit hit and miss, depends on the author. But here's some really neat things about here. Like this article here, this learning styles and pedagogy, if I was studying something on that topic, the thing about this top article, it says here, this has been cited by 2,915 other people. So that almost gives a kind of a quality ranking. The more people that cite something, generally speaking, the better they find it. So I can click on the cited by 2915 there, and it will actually take me to the 2,915 results of those other cited papers and so on. So it's a really great way to dig down deep into academic work really quickly. You can got some little filters on the side here. You can search, you know, if you're looking for more current resource, you can filter it like since 2019 or since 2020. And the other thing is that's really handy is if you do find something in here that is useful to you, there's a little set of, well, first there's a little star, so you can star it and put it into your starred collection. But next to it is the little quote marks, and if you hit the quote marks, it actually gives you the citations in all those different MLA, APA, Chicago formats, so you don't have to worry about how to write that out. It's just there, you copy and paste it. If you happen to use a third-party citation manager like BibTeX or EndNote or RefMan or any of those, the exports are down here. You can just export that straight out and then pull that straight into those third-party tools. So there you go. So that is Google Scholar.
It's pretty cool. And I like the fact that your second search option that you had that you obviously looked for was Melbourne culture. And I did think that it would be interesting to read the Melbourne culture and filtering for, you know, post, like pre-COVID versus post-COVID and Melbourne culture. I'd probably get some different results.
Well, you'll see why I put that in there in a second. And I'm gonna just throw the next letter in if you guys don't mind, because I just want to tie that together with Scholar with a brand new feature in Google Docs called Citations. So if you'll allow me, I'm just going to pick letter C here.
And then I'm just going to say, because Janine is keen for us to do D, so we will go to D next. Janine,
go to D next, promise. But we've just added a new feature into Google Docs called Citations. And I've just realized I had this open before and I think I closed it by mistake. So let me just grab it. This one's Citations demo. So I just want to show you this. So here's a Google Doc. It's a lovely little essay that a student's written, why Melbourne is the best city in the world. I'm sure many will agree. But what I wanted to show you is, for a student that's writing anything at all and doing some research in Google Docs now, there's this new tool in the tools menu called Citations. You might not have noticed it because it's really only been there a matter of weeks. If I click on Citations, now I've started this as an example to give you an example of how this works, and I've already added a number of citations here on the side. But to add a citation into a piece of work, let's say I'm a student, I'm writing this essay, I can go up to the top here where it says Add Citation Source, right? And I can go in and choose, where did I get my stuff from? Was it from a book section, a website, a journal article, or a newspaper article, and so on? Let's say it was from a website. All right, well, when was it accessed? Well, that's only one option for a website. But you can go down here, who were the contributors, what were their names, what was the title, what was the URL, and so on and so on. You can add all that information in there, when it was published, when you accessed it. And once you do that, it will actually give you these citations that are all properly cited. And there's 3 options there, MLA, APA, or Chicago. I'm not sure which one is the most common for you guys, but I think my school used to use APA quite a bit. But yeah, there's the 3 options there. And as you can see, if I change between different methods, they actually change the citation to match the correct method. Now, the neat thing is that once you've written, or once your students have written their work and they've added their citations using the citation tool as they go, then it's a fairly simple matter to go down the bottom of the document when they're done, and they simply click this button that says Insert Bibliography, and boom, it will, oh, why don't I get all of them? Oh, because it went to a new page. There you go. So there's the bibliography, all done according to the correct formatting and whatnot for that particular style that you've chosen. I think I saw a comment pop up in the
question about how do we know if there is if the APA style is the latest version.
Yeah, good question. Someone said that to me the other day. I'm not sure what the differences is between the versions, but if you want to try it out and let me know, and if you're finding it's not the latest version, let me know, because I'll take it back to the team that developed this and just point that out to them. I'm pretty sure that they're on top of this stuff, though. So
I would think so too. And then Michelle's asked, will it auto-generate the details if you put the URL or DOI in?
What's the DOI?
It's a unique document identifier.
Oh, okay. I think I did see that in here somewhere. Because I tried, when I made this demo for you, I tried some websites and some books and some journal articles just to see what they're all like. And depending on what you choose as your citation source, it will actually ask you a different set of questions. And I remember I did see a reference to a DOI in there. I didn't know what it was, but yeah, it is there. The other thing I just would mention too is that in your actual article, if I just sort of come out of there, like let's say, you know, let's say you get to like there, and that sentence that I wrote is directly from one of the citations that I created. I can actually come up here and hit this cite button up here, and it will actually add the little citation in there as well, waiting for the page number. If I don't have a page number, I can just get rid of it. So so yeah, so for what it's worth, there's a brand new citation tool right inside Google Docs, and I think a lot of teachers have been waiting for that.
And I think, you know, to Chris's point, it is brand new, like a couple of weeks old at most.
Yeah.
And one of our philosophies at Google is to launch early and iterate. So anybody who's using Google tools for a while will know that they're constantly updating. And so whenever we do launch a new tool like this or a new resource within one of our existing products, we continue to take on board feedback. So please do, to, you know, the point of like, does it do X, Y, and Z? If it's something that you think it should do, please do feed that. You pass forward, pass on, use the feedback button in all of our tools. Really struggling to come up with a word to let us know so that they can continue to improve it. And final question on citations about working in the Edge browser. Good question.
I can't see why it wouldn't.
No, Edge is built on Chromium, so you would assume it would. But yeah, ultimately whether Microsoft is allowing it to, probably. So
yeah. In the link for that, I've just linked to the support article, seeing there was nothing else really logical to link to, but you can read more about it there. All right, and was D our next choice?
Yeah, which is Quick Draw, one of my favorites, Chris, and you get to show us how impressive your drawing is with this. So this is a game, and oh, you've got your stylus. Oh, you knew, you came prepared.
No, I didn't. I just.
So Quick Draw is a great game that basically draws on machine learning and AI, where you're playing with the computer, with Google in this case, and you get you have it open, great, in one of your 20 tabs. You get a prompt, and you have to draw it, and the computer will guess your what you're trying to draw based on what other people have drawn. So Chris has 20 seconds now to draw
I don't know, a keyboard. It's pretty bad.
She got it straight away.
I got it. Draw a dumbbell. Dumbbell. I guess it's.
Oh. Can you stop drawing with your stylus? You're doing too well. Like, it's much more fun if you fail.
Fireplace. What's a fireplace? I guess it's like that with some fire in the middle. Oh, I know, it's a fireplace.
So we're hearing the sound, interestingly, on your tab right now, Chris. But she does actually. I say she as if Google is a person. She's not. The computer does guess out loud. And if you've ever done, anybody who's done this with students, it's such a fun activity because some of the things that they guess is just absolutely hilarious. Like, it's a great, like, you know, tuning back in type of exercise and things like that in the classroom.
It doesn't know, and I don't know what else to draw, so I'm running out of time. So that's supposed to be a power outlet. But
American power outlets don't look like that, Chris.
Oh, yeah, true, yeah.
Yeah.
A mustache.
So while Chris is drawing that, the other thing that we have on the second, not on our alphabet grid, but on the slide following that in the presentation is also something called auto draw, which is sort of the lead on from quick draw, where if you draw something on the whiteboard, it will actually give you the option to take your sketch and turn it into like a proper version of whatever it is. Not that your versions weren't proper, just it tidies it up and gives you a nice version of it. And you're going to talk about everyone else's?
I actually made a video the other day that takes you through that whole process of how you can teach AI related stuff using this tool. So I might actually link it in our notes when we come out of here. But because what I wanted to point out was if you click on any of these, like dumbbell, you'll actually see this is what you drew. This is some of the things that thought you might have drawn. And if you scroll down the page, there's everybody else's drawings of dumbbells. As an ex-art teacher, I mean, I would tie this back to work like the stuff Picasso did, where he was taking pictures of bulls and you know, abstracting them down to just a few lines. Because how much do you need in order for the human brain to be able to interpret that is in fact a dumbbell? And when you go back to the main front page here, if I go just close that front page and go to the front page where it says world's largest data set, if you click on that, you actually get the entire data set of all the objects that show up. And like, for example, this is really hard because if you touch any of them, it puts a little label over it so you can tell what it is. But I could point to nearly any one of them and you could probably tell me what it is. And then it becomes a really interesting question. How do you know what that is? Like, how do you know that this, for example, is a mouse? You know, so there are certain qualities of mouseness, if you like, that that certain objects have. And that's the thing that you can actually use to train machines to identify objects, which we'll talk about a little bit more when we get to another letter.
Excellent.
Over to you, Cindy.
All right. Chris, I was trying to find your YouTube video, but I failed.
It's not public at the moment.
Okay, well, that's why I can't find it. It's definitely not going to be able to find it. Okay, let's have another letter.
First person to start with a letter.
I.
I. Okay. Thanks, Anne-Marie. Google Images. Kimberly, I'll drive, but you talk.
Okay, great. I love Google Images. So we just wanted to flag a couple of the really cool features in images. We could talk about images for an hour, honestly. So Chris, can you just do a search for, let's do like a puppy, because everybody needs a little bit of
everyone loves a puppy.
Everyone in Victoria deserves a lot of extra puppiness in their life. So once you've done an image search, there's a whole lot of really cool features that you can then do to hone in and refine your search. So you will have seen over the last 6 months-ish, maybe more, blur time anyway, nobody really knows, that we actually now have these predetermined filters across the top. So when you search for something, it actually does a semantic link for, okay, you might have wanted to actually add this additional level of filter on top of your search. And so you can click on any of those and it will narrow down your search for you, which is pretty cool.
Cute, happy golden retrievers.
See, like that one on the far right, like I just feel like we need to have some more cute puppies bounding through our lives. But if you don't use those you don't have to actually get it from me. It's okay. If you don't use those predetermined filters, if you actually just click on the tools menu, so once you've actually done a search in images, you will then see this tools menu. So you'll see it's below the search box there. You get other additional filtering options. And yeah, Chris, let's start with usage, right? So the very first thing, which I think is such an essential conversation to be having with all users of the internet, is the idea that Google image search uses, Google's search algorithm, which means it indexes every image on the entire web and returns those results to you. But not all of those images are actually labeled in a way that you are supposed to reuse them. So even if you took that image and put it in a Google slideshow and showed it to your kids, if it wasn't actually labeled for Creative Commons, technically you are breaching image copyright. So it's really important that you think about how you are talking about the use of images, and you can really quickly, they actually changed this only a couple of months ago, don't know how, so you can actually make sure that it's got the Creative Commons licenses. So they used to have different filters on here, and these images then will come back and they will actually tell you if you're allowed to use them. A lot of these will come back from Flickr and Pixabay and the free websites of image banks.
It's interesting with kids because they'll often, like, if you look at the commercial stuff and you go, oh, those puppies are so cute, and when you switch to the Creative Commons stuff, often the photos, quote, don't look as good, right? And kids will go, oh, but I don't like these, they're not as good. And that really opens the way to have that conversation about the fact that these are generally contributed by users rather than professional photographers, which is why they're commercial or not commercial.
And I think it's an interesting one because, we want to be obviously having those conversations a really simple, easy way with our kids around thinking about who owns the content online. And, that leads to a whole lot of really great conversations around, I guess the reliability of things, etc. And I think it's a good way of doing that. Yeah. Another couple of filters that are really super useful. So under color, if you filter your images for transparent, what it actually will do is it will return only images that have a transparent background. So that means you can take any of these images and drop them on something that has a full color background, and you will just get the image, not the white around it. And then in the size one, the one I also use quite a lot is filtering by size. Because inevitably we've all been there where we find like the perfect image through Google image search, and then you drag and drop it into a slide or something like that, and it's like this big, and then you stretch it and it pixelates. So rather than causing yourself that pain, if you actually just filter to only see large, I find even median sized images will fill a slide within a slideshow, it just helps with some of that as well. And then just one other thing on images, just because we could talk about it for a long time. The other thing that's probably lesser known around the way Google image search works is if you actually notice up in the search bar, you'll see that there's a little camera icon. And what you can actually do with Google Images is you can actually search the web using an image. So, Chris, do you have a picture that you want to do that with quickly? Or
I don't think I do, but what I don't, because I don't normally use this account, so having a lot of images stored in this account. But yeah, so you can click on the camera and then click this button. If you've got a graphic or an image on your computer, I used to teach a multimedia course to some Year 11 students, and one of the things I had to do was a photography assignment. And this girl was producing these beautiful photographs that she insisted were her own work. And it didn't take long to do a reverse image search to actually find out that it belonged to a professional photographer somewhere else. I know I'm mean. But one of the things you can do is if you've got an image on the page, like for example, this little cute dog right here, you can actually click on that and drag it up into that box and let it go, and it will search that image. And you can do this from any web page. Sorry, no, you can't do it from any web page. You can get an image from any web page and drag it in. But so now it's telling you this is where that one came from. It came from the Good Housekeeping, but also here's a whole bunch of other visually similar images.
And this is one of my favorite activities to do with photos of people, is you drop the photo of somebody in there and then you see what the visually similar images are for that person's photo, and it is hilarious. Like, hands down, you will have the craziest pictures. So I'd encourage you to try that. I don't call that mean. I call that enjoyable when you've been stuck in your own house for 7 months. And,
Yeah.
All right, Chris, is there anything that you want to that we could talk about images for a long time? Any final things you want to flag before we move on to the next letter?
No, we're good.
Okay, let's have another letter in the chat then.
First one in the chat. First one in the chat. Hey, I forget what's under, eh?
Yours, Chris.
Hey, is the Arts and Culture. Google Arts and Culture is an amazing site that is put together by our Arts and Culture team. And it sounds like it's like if you're an art teacher, this would be really useful, and it certainly is, but it's actually useful right across all curriculum areas. It's like a multimedia encyclopedia on the web. And there's so much stuff in here that you can just go and explore. A lot of it is artworks, but the culture part of it, there's lots of museum stuff from all around the world. It looks at historical events, all sorts of stuff. Now, because I used to be an art teacher, I am going to use an art example. So I'm going to go in here and search for Van Gogh. We have a lovely Van Gogh exhibition happening in Sydney at the moment. So I'm going to click on this and just click on Van Gogh, who is there, and you'll see it's giving me a little bit of information about Van Gogh. It's got some of his artworks down there. It's got a whole bunch more down there. Some related artists that were, existed around the same sort of time, or who he worked with, or who had similar visually styles. But I just want to show you a couple of things in here, like this portrait here of the postman. If I click on that portrait, it will open it up for me in a separate window. I've got a little bit of information about it down the bottom there. I can read about it, learn a bit more about it, its dimensions, blah, blah, blah. It's, as an art teacher, like this is the best textbook I've ever had. But if I click on this image, now you see that I've got this little magnified view on the side here. And if I slide this slider across, it will actually zoom in. And I can zoom in quite a long way to have a really close look at some of this work. And I've just picked a painting here, but this works for all of the pieces in the museum, basically, in the gallery. And you can go in and inspect things really close, have a really close look. Now, this particular painting is it's a high resolution image, but we also have, if I just go back a step, like for example, this one here of Starry Night. This is an ultra high definition image. So this was taken with what's called a gigapixel camera. You've probably heard of megapixels before. Gigapixels is 1,000 times more than that. So if I zoom in on this particular painting, Starry Night, you can see I can go in and further and further and further, and I can get right down. Now, one of the interesting things about Van Gogh's work is that, a lot of his style is brushstrokes and the way he used the canvas and the speed at which he worked. And I can come in here and actually see, like, there's parts of here where the paint's barely covering the canvas, because that was the nature of Van Gogh's work, that he worked really quickly to capture the essence of things. You can start talking about the Impressionist movement, blah, blah, blah. So it's got a whole bunch of really useful ability to sort of zoom in like that. Down below here, you'll see it says View in Street View. If I click the View in Street View, it will fly me to an in-museum 360 image, so I can pick this up and move it around. So now I'm standing in the museum where that painting was actually on display. I can look around and see what other paintings are here on display, and I can click on them and zoom in on them. Here's this painting of Joseph Rulin, the mailman. And if I want to see more about that, I can click on this over here, and then it will jump me back into the collection over there and see that specific painting. So I can leap around in all sorts of ways in here. But the other thing that is really cool is this view in augmented reality. And again, I won't do it here because we're in the middle of a presentation and I don't want to have things fall apart. But if you've got like 3D glasses, like the Google VR goggles, the VR glasses, you can actually view a lot of this stuff in augmented reality as well. So tons and tons of useful stuff in there. I could literally spend hours in arts and culture, and I obviously won't, but I do encourage you, just go in there, just browse. You can get lost in there for hours. It's so much fun.
You can, and I will just give a plug as well for the mobile app for this. So it is a really great mobile app, and there are some augmented reality application that are only for the app. So you can actually do things like put the Mona Lisa in your room and actually get the, you know, the underwhelming real life scale that the Mona Lisa actually is, and walk around it, and kids can go up to it and things like that. So, and then there is the selfie one where you take a selfie of yourself and it will scan every piece of art and find similar images to you in art over time, which is one.
I'm taking a selfie now, and it's now going and searching the database of all the artworks in the gallery, and it's going to find, it reckons I look like that guy. Please.
You actually do. From this distance, that one on the right genuinely looks like you.
Oh, the one on the left is me, but the one on the right, really? What about that guy? What about that guy?
Yeah, it's up a mustache.
It's a lot of fun actually to see, and it's telling you like that first one that Kimberly reckons looks like me. Like, it's saying that's an 81% match. It opens up all sorts of interesting conversations on an artistic level, on a computer science level, AI, machine learning, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it is another one that we could literally spend the entire hour talking about. Oh, what activity?
Hold on to the foot of my chair, feel my legs.
Okay. None of you have cameras on, but we all know whether you're doing it. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing it. That's 30 seconds, right? I love that the couple of people who have cameras on are joining in. All right, come back, everybody. Let's move it. That's how it works.
I'm sorry, moving it.
Don't set it for 5 minutes, or you'll end up throwing your laptop across the room, because it will ask you to. You'll be like, no. Okay, we had a couple of requests for R, Chris. So let's jump in.
What is under R? Let me see. R is rework. You want to talk about this one?
Sure. So Rework is a Google site, which is basically a great resource around the way that Google works, and shares a whole lot of resources around that. So, Chris, if you go back up to the top, where's the options? So you can go into innovation, for example. And so if there's anybody on the call who's a digital learning leader at a Catholic education school in Melbourne, you may have actually come to the Google office earlier this year when we were allowed to see people in real life. And we ran through a design process, and we used a lot of the tools from this Rework site as part of that. So in this innovation section within the Rework, you can see it's taking you through a design process. And Chris, I think if you click through, I don't know which one you're in, but some of them actually have templates for, there's a design sprint template within here, which is actually pulled from the way that design process is actually done at Google to design the products that we all use. So there's a whole lot of really great things in here. There's a whole lot of stuff around just other work stuff. You can see there's HR and things like that as well. But it is genuinely like the stuff that Google bases the way it works on. So quite a good one to share with kids. Really, obviously links really well into any sort of design, inquiry activities that you're doing in school, to get some, examples from obviously a pretty well-known global company and the way that they approach it and the steps that they take for design and things like that as well.
Nice.
All right, let's go to the next letter because I'm conscious of the time.
Okay.
Who'd like to throw another letter in? W
is the web store. This will be quick. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but Google has a web store. It's called Chrome Web Store. And the easiest way to find anything in Google land is just to Google it. So if you're not sure, just go to Google and search for Chrome Web Store. And you'll find it. And it's basically like an app store for anything in Chrome. And so you can come in here. This is where you get your extensions and your themes and your apps and even your games. There's some filters on the side here. So if you're looking for something that specifically runs offline or was made by Google or is particularly free, works with Android or whatever. And I always like to make sure I turn the ratings on as well, because there's a lot of stuff that goes into these stores. I mean, there's tons of stuff in here, and there's all sorts of different quality levels. Some things are better than others. I always look for anything that's 4 stars and up, just to make sure I'm getting something that works pretty well. But anytime someone says to you, oh, you should try that Chrome extension or use this great Chrome app, this is where you find it from the Chrome Web Store. Did you want to add anything, Kimberly?
No, I think you did a great job of that. Okay. We had E chucked in the chat whilst you were doing that. And I know that is expiration dates on.
Expiration dates. Yeah, absolutely.
So the link in the resource links to this support page. And if you aren't familiar with Google support page, if you ever are looking for any information on anything Google, if it starts with support.google.com, the website that you're looking on, it's going to be up to date. It's going to be accurate. It's the support page that is, there's teams of people that update from Google. So we always strongly encourage people to your very first point of call should be support.google.com. But what expiration dates and sharing are, and this is something that has been around for a little while now, but I tend to find not many people have really explored or used, is it actually means you can share something with people for a limited period of time, and it will just automatically stop sharing it with them at whatever period, whenever you tell it that you want to stop sharing with them. Rather than
I was going to throw in a bonus tip here, Kimberly, too. You can, to make a Google Doc really quickly now, you can type docs.new. And if you wanted, say, a new Google Slides presentation, you can say slides.new, anything at all like that. So if you put the name of the tool in .new, it will actually create it for you. And so you can see when I click on that, it's created a new slide deck for me. So,
awesome. So can you go up and share this slide deck, Chris? You probably have to name it before you share it. But.
So you can see I'm clicking there. I'll just give it a name, test, right? And so when it comes up here, I'm going to share this with Kimberly. So I'll share that with Kimberly right there. But like by default, it'll try and make her an editor because it assumes we want to work together on this. But if I open that up and I go to editor, and I think do I have to share this with you first?
I think you have to share it with me first and then change it.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so I've shared that with Kimberly, and you can see if I go back in there now, if I open this up, you see I get some other options down here. By the way, and you probably noticed we've redesigned this sharing window. It looks a little bit different than it did a few months back. So it's a new design. I think it's a lot easier to understand what's going on. But I can give someone temporary access by choosing that option. And now I can say, well, this access to this person, maybe I want Kimberly to be an editor.
You can't do temporary editing.
Okay, right. I didn't realize that. Okay, so so it's dropped to commenting access, but I can make that access expire after a certain time. So you can click on there and actually make it whatever date you want. Probably not in the past. That wouldn't work. Let's have a time machine. And so you can add that expiration date in there. And again, it's just a little thing, but it's just something a lot of people aren't aware of. Sometimes you share a document with someone, then you forget about it, and you realize 3 years later they've still got access when probably they shouldn't have. So
I think it's also great, like when you are sending things around and asking your team for input onto something by Monday, and and then you're going to go back through and check everything on Tuesday, and you know that 90% of your team are actually going to go in on Tuesday and add their thoughts for the first time. Like you actually only give them access until Monday, so that you can't sort of actually continue. You've got a hard deadline on, or you shared stuff out with the community, with parents and things like that, and you only want them to access it for a period of time. It's a good one for that.
While we're on this screen, it's probably worth pointing out too that with this new design now, this top section, this big box at the top, is for when you're sharing with individual people, and this bottom section, this box, is when you're sharing with sort of unknown groups of people. So it might be anyone within your organization or just anyone with the link. So all that stuff is down the bottom now, whereas it kind of used to be all mixed up in before with the others. And the gear wheel up the top is where you have options here where you can allow editors to change permissions or not. And you can allow viewers and commenters to download, print, and copy a document or not. So if you want to get a bit more protective about your documents, you've got a few more options in there. They're hiding just up there under the gear wheel.
And that one that you can stop people from downloading, copying, and printing is pretty amazing. Like people can, it basically operates like an impenetrable PDF on the web, because they can highlight, but it doesn't matter how many times they try. The only thing they could do is take a screenshot. You cannot copy from it at all. So don't know how they do that. Pretty special. But
found it out the other day.
Next letter.
J for Jamboard. So Jamboard, as some of you guys know, is our new tool for collaborative. It's a collaborative workspace. It's a little bit like an online whiteboard. It's a lot like an online whiteboard, and you can share it with people, and they can all collaborate together.
We can create one in the Meet.
Yeah, I was just going to say, can we do that, Nathan? Any chance you could just generate one, because you're the owner of this particular Meet?
No worries, will do. Just a second. So I have the option in my my menu here to just start one. So I'll do that now.
While Nathan's doing that, I'll point out that you can see from my screen here, jamboard.google.com is the address you can go to. You can just create a jam, right, and then share it with people. So if I go down here, click the plus button, create a new jam, like so. Okay, and then so it's a whiteboard. It's got a share button, so you share it the same way you'd share a Google Doc. You've got drawing tools on the side, but we've also integrated Jamboard now into Google Meet, and that's what Nathan's doing for us right now. Is he's actually opening up. So I'm going to close this one so we don't confuse people. So you can see over on the side there that there is a Jamboard link, and the neat thing, Meg, you don't have access.
Just try again, Meg. I've just made it available to everyone, so it should be able to get in now.
Can I get that as well? I'm working on 2 computers here, so it's all getting very confusing. There you go. So here's the jam. I can see you guys are in it, and some of you have discovered that you can draw and add things and add sticky notes. Over on the side here, there's a couple of tools. There's a pen, different styles of pen, different colors of pen. There's an eraser. There's a pointer pointing at things. You can add the sticky notes, as you see. You can also add some images. So if I go in there and search for an image of, I don't know, we're in a puppy kind of mood today. Oops. Puppy. All right. So we'll take that really cute puppy there and say select. We can add that picture in.
This is really intense. All these people drawing someone.
There you go. And you can resize things, move things around, and pick up some of these things. It is a very democratic environment in that, even you don't just control your stuff. Everyone can do everything. So, play nice.
The other thing you can do is you'll see in the top, it has 1 of 1. You can add as many jam pages, templates, background. What do you call them, Chris?
I just call them pages, but I don't know.
You can add as many pages.
I believe their correct name is frames.
You can have as many frames as you like to the jam. And so you can have multiple jams. So, we're seeing a rise in people using Jamboard from like basically 0 to lots of people during remote learning because it is a really simple, easy, free, online collaborative tool. It's actually part of Google's core tools as well. So it's covered by your standard Google for Education agreement. So there's no issue in terms of turning it on. It just needs to be switched on at the admin console, which some people might need help with. But yeah, you can have as many many pages in your jam as you like. So we saw lots of people having, a slide or a frame for every kid, and they're all adding stuff in there, etc. Building on it over time, whatever you like.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of stories, especially with remote learning, where teachers are using Jamboard, and like you just said, you have a frame for every student, and so you launch that out with Classroom or however you might do it through Meet. And then the teacher can literally flip from frame to frame and watch students working on each frame. If you've been using Jamboard for a little while, you might notice that one of the recent things we've added in here is text boxes and shapes, which weren't there before. So there's a text box tool here now, which makes it so much easier for teachers to actually sort of create, resources that are readable. And also there's a text tool over here as well, where you can go in and some, if you want to draw shapes like squares or rectangles or arrows or whatever else, that is now in there, and it wasn't before. I will just point out, there also is a Jamboard app for both Android and iOS, and there actually are a few additional features you get in the app that you don't get in the web version yet. So you might like to check that out as well. And if you're on the app and someone else is on the web version, you can still collaborate together in the same jam. It doesn't matter, which device you're on, it's still the same jam. It's just some devices can do a little bit more than others.
And if you have a touch device with a stylus, it really is a great little one to drop a picture and annotate over the top of and things like that as well. It's really simple and easy. Much easier with a stylus than it is with your mouse or your trackpad on your laptop. So. And
as Lisa just pointed out too, it also works inside Google Classroom. So if you did want to give each individual kid a copy of a jam, you can use that feature to give a copy to every student inside Classroom, and it works fine with this as well. So that is J for Jamboard.
All right, someone want to drop another letter in? You can keep playing in the jam board if you want. We won't judge you.
All right.
Another letter.
I'm going to close that just because I don't need to be in it. But
P, please, Chris.
E.
P for
P. I've done it.
Oh, I don't know what P is for.
Oh, P for pivot table.
Your favourite. Now, Chris, I'm giving you a 2-minute warning. You're not allowed to talk about pivot tables for the whole rest of the session. You got 2 minutes.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. I just want like pivot tables are this tool inside spreadsheets, and I know most people aren't spreadsheet gurus, right? And I know most people get scared by spreadsheets, but I just want to show you there is this tool inside Google Sheets called a pivot table, right? And I'll show you. It's right in the data menu. There it is, right there. Okay, and it looks a bit confusing, sounds a bit confusing at first, but once you understand what a pivot table does, oh my goodness, it just changes the way you think about data. So I've got some data here. You can see there's a list of countries, and for each country I have which region of the world it's in and which sub-region it's in and what its population is. And if I was to give you this list and say to you, can you let me know what's the total population of Asia, right? Then you'd have to go through, Afghanistan's in Asia, Armenia's in Asia, Azerbaijan's in Asia. You have to like count them out one by one and sort of, I don't know, group them or filter them or sort them or somehow. And it's a very manual process to try and pull out all the Asias to work out the population of Asia, right? But I just want to show you this. If I just grab all of that data and go to the data list up here and say, make a pivot table, and it'll say, where do you want to make it? New sheet. Yes, please. That's a good idea. So we create. It brings up this new sheet, and this is essentially what a pivot table is. It's a set of rows with a set of columns and a set of values. And simple example, I'm just going to go into the rows down the side here, and I'm going to say on the row column, I want to have the regions, boom. So it goes to my original data and pulls out just the regions. It filters them out automatically for me. And then in the values section, this white bit here, in there, I want to have the population. So I'll do that. And boom, and then it automatically just pulls out all that data for me, right? That's a magical thing about pivot tables, and it's live, so that if the data changed back in the original sheet, say I got an updated list of populations, it would automatically update in the pivot table. And the thing is, you can start to add layers to this. So for example, if I want I've got regions, but you might remember I had also in here, I had sub-regions. So if I choose to add sub-regions in, now it filters or it presents the data in a different way again. And so I can sort of take this data and chop and change it and look at it from different angles and, you know, filter it and sort it really easily using this pivot table that would normally take much longer to do if I was to do it longhand. And you know, take it to a student example. If you had a list of all the students in your school and you had certain information, you want to know which are all the students in year 7 that, you know, have chosen, I don't know, ice hockey for their term 3 sport or whatever, right? You could very easily get that data out of a large data set, where I'm guessing most of you right now would spend a long time getting that, and it can be done in seconds if you know how to use pivot tables. I'll leave it at that.
And we might segue from there, because we've only got 2 minutes left, into just what was under T, Chris, which is the Teacher Centre.
Yep.
And just to flag that we do have this great, if you haven't come across it before, this is our Teacher Centre, which is basically designed for teachers resources, and there are a whole lot of, you know, self-paced courses you can do here. You can work towards different levels of Google certification, and it's a good segue because I know that pivot tables are in our advanced course that Chris has got on the screen right now. So if you wanted to with any of these courses, you can just jump in, you can start the training, you can just jump to whatever unit, activity, or whatever it is that you're interested in. So if you are interested in learning more about pivot tables, this is a really good place to go to. On here as well, you can also look underneath product guides and get just specific information about particular tools. There are programs, resources, communities, all of that. But this is sort of our hub that we always direct teachers to for how do you continue to learn and ensure that what you're accessing is, you know, not just a standard Google search where you get 45,000 terrible YouTube videos, but a more of a curated resource around continuing your learning.
Yeah. And I just say, some of you obviously, I guess, have heard of the level 1 and level 2 certifications that Google offer. And you can see them up here under certifications. There's level 1 and level 2. Just so you know, this Learn the Basics course here that you could start doing. You know, it's like 12 hours of learning. It doesn't actually take you 12 hours, but there's like 12 hours of content in it if you want to take it really, really slow. But this course maps out to the level 1 course. So if you want to do level 1, everything you need to know is in this basics course, and the same, the advanced training, everything you need to know in the advanced training is what you need for the level 2 course. So if you want to do any of those certifications, everything you need is on this website. And of course, the programs we've got, like Certified Trainer and Innovator and coach programs, they're all there as well. And some of you may be involved in Google Educator groups, GEGs. I know there's a couple of active ones down your way. And so you can find in here, you can sort of browse and see which ones. I think there's one at one in Bairnsdale Lakes Entrance, and there's another one at Mornington Peninsula. I think that's the only two operating in Vic at the moment, but lots and lots of cool stuff on the Teacher Centre. Definitely worth a look. We put everything that's relevant to teachers on this site.
Awesome. Chris, can you just bring up our contact details again at the end as well, please?
Yep.
So yeah, quite genuine offer. Please do keep in touch with Chris or myself if there's anything that we can do to assist. As we said, we obviously didn't get through everything, which we no surprises there from our point of view. But if there's any questions or follow-up that you have, feel free to reach out to either one of us as well. And Nathan, I know you wanted to say something just to finish off.
Oh yeah, just a thank you to you both again for coming in and giving your time, and lots of good mix of sort of fun stuff and really relevant stuff as well. I've just posted again the link to the slideshow. I'm guessing that if attendees want to click through the other letters of the alphabet, they can do that from that.
Yeah, what we did, Nathan, was as well as the every letter is pointing to one thing, but we've also got this page here where you can explore further.
Oh wow!
Some point to other things as well.
That was the page where we couldn't quite decide which tool got the one of the 26 spots. So
yeah, looking good. Oh well, thanks again, Kev. Did you want to give a thanks as well for DLTV?
I thought that was a great presentation. I'm going to steal that idea.